again, if you're looking for something physical or sexual, like this, this conversation is moot, I think, because none of these questions come into play. Like if you're compatible, if you get along, if you have similar interests, like all of the things that I think a lot of people think about when they're thinking about a potential relationship. So, I mean, if you're not worried about those things and are only concentrating on, or don't care if something physical happens, then it's not a big deal. But
right, but I still don't understand why being physical means that you can't have the rest. Or that you probably don't want it, or that it's going to be harder to obtain, harder to get into a relationship because you've had sex on the first date. Why?
Well, I think it's you need to explain like how it could be easier, because I think we've kind of given examples as to how it's harder.
For me, it's easier because that part of the relationship is put aside. It's been established. It's going to happen. It's done. So
So sex is an obstacle to you to real
intimacy. Yes, because it's something that is going to happen at some point in either a friendship that's maybe more than a friendship, or something that's purely physical, or even a long-lasting relationship. It's something that's going to happen, right? So why make it a contest? No, I think sex removes a lot of barriers. I think men act differently after I think men act more naturally or more themselves after they've been sexually active with a female.
So if a woman chooses to have sex with the man early, she's, in other words, trying to get to know him better?
No. If a woman ends up having sex with a man on the first date, for example, she'll see the real man after they have sex. Like, he has nothing to hide.
But what do you think a male
What?
perception
I hope
of-
not.
That's how most guys are. That's how most guys are.
I mean,
They'll put up, like,
But
they'll
what
act
if,
the
what
way...
if they don't want her afterwards and she sees him hanging up on her or like dissing her?
That's a
Or
possibility.
they
That's
never
a
talk
possibility.
again.
That's a possibility. But the other possibility is that she waits, and meanwhile he puts up like a facade. Like he acts the way he's expected to act.
So
And
wait,
once they have
so
sex-
wait.
What stupid
Guys
girls
being
are falling for this
sensitive,
actor?
guys being
Okay.
gentlemanly, guys actually like taking an interest in what we have to say. That's actually all a facade to get us in bed.
Sometimes it is.
I mean, do you see that? I mean, like
Sometimes it is.
no, I just...
better to find out that you're not compatible because your facade is pretty weak or you guys just don't have connections than to give it up on the first date thinking that you're going to have something more and never hear from them.
I'm not saying they need to give it. I'm just saying if it does happen, that's what most times will end up happening. If the female does sleep with the male on the first date, the male the male's goal to go out with a girl is most likely to get her in bed,
Right.
have sex with her, right?
Right.
So if that's done with, right, he got his goal. The only reason he's staying with her is because he wants to get to know her. He's more interested in her.
Yeah, but see, that second goal that you're talking about, the getting to know her and interested in her, like, I don't see that happening as much as
What
you
is the
guys say
motivation
that.
if you've already
Had
had
sex.
Because
Exactly.
he's interested in her. He's
have a
actually
relationship.
in a
How
relationship.
can you figure out if
So-
you're interested in
Don't you
someone
think
in
that
one date?
No,
and
we're
then
not
there's
talking
that
about one
double
date.
standard, obviously, of women who do sleep with men on the first date as being promiscuous, and why would you want her for a long-term girlfriend or
That's
your
right.
wife, etc.?
But see, I think the difference between the majority of women and the majority of men is that the majority of men, view sex as a goal, and I don't think that women view sex as an endpoint of anything. Like,
No,
not
that's not the way
necessarily.
I mean, you can take it back as far as you want. It never was. Women want stability, relationship, so on and so forth. Men want to spread their seed.
Right.
So the goal for men is to have sex. The goal for women is to find a partner.
Right, and so essentially, once you spread your seed, you can basically go on to the next farm.
Right. But we evolved and we have emotion now. And so, although it's somewhat
Apparently not,
limited
because
in
you still
men,
need to get through the sex in order to get to the emotion. You
No.
can't do the emotion without.
No,
doing the
we're not
sex
saying
first.
it's necessary to have the sex and you get into the emotion. It could happen that you have the sex first and then you show the real emotion. You don't
what
have
I was, the point
to
I was
have
answering
sex.
is that I don't see the need to delay it. I'm not saying this always happens. I'm not saying it's the case. But the holding of sex back as some sort of privilege that you guys give to men, that women give to men, that they have to earn this, right? So men try to earn it.
But it's not a game, Brad. It's not thought of in terms of, oh, I'm going to restrain my one powerful thing, my sexuality, until this
No, but
man
you value it as a
proves
gift.
himself.
Women in general, I think, value having sex with a man as giving him something.
And you're saying that as if that's wrong or that's inferior.
Women say, okay, well, if he's the one, then I'll have sex with him. Or if I think this relationship has potential, then it's worth having sex. But if it's not, then it's not worth having sex. Would you disagree with that statement?
No. I mean, if I feel blasé about a guy, I don't necessarily need to exert myself to have sex with him. Yeah.
So it's something you will withhold.
It's not necessarily about withholding and hiding. It's just about like
not hiding, just
It's about
withholding.
self-respect to me.
It's
You
about,
have to
like,
make
not-
decisions based on knowing people and knowing yourself and what you want.
I'm not
Right.
saying it's not possible to have sex on the second date, but
What's different from the first to the second?
time. I mean, knowing them a little bit better.
So it's a. You're
Just
talking
look
about
from the
having
music
sex.
standpoint.
Express issue. It's not like holding your gift in a perfect little box. It's
And
maybe
maybe-
you feel comfortable.
Well, and you make
But the
it
reason
sound
I put
manipulative.
no, the
Or at
reason I
least
put
knowing
it
that
that
this
way
is
is because
free.
guys don't think. Most guys that I know, including myself, don't think that way. It's not a relationship goal. It's not something I don't. It's just a different way of thinking. It's not something I'm giving up. It's not something that will have a negative effect on my or other people's look on me or my reputation.
When men like have this goal of, you know, spreading the seed, once that goal is completed, like it's the same goal, like must spread seed, like have new goal, must have sex
But no,
with
but
other girl. And if that
A, we're not
happens,
robots,
like,
and B, we've evolved from animals, so we developed emotion and intellect.
you've developed conflict resolution, like lack of responsibility.
Yeah, so just get the baseball bats out. Men are not pigs. It's just a different way of thinking. That's all. We don't value giving the privilege to have sex with. It's not a privilege to have sex with men. It's a privilege to have sex with women. It's not a privilege to have sex with men. You don't chase men and try to have sex with them, do you? Can you see yourself doing that?
No.
Can you see yourself, a guy going, I don't know her well enough yet. I'm gonna wait.
Yes.
Yes,
I could see
can.
that.
Yes.
There are guys who've done that.
There are some, but
Some,
you wouldn't
not
say
as-
it's
yeah.
the majority, and you would say the same for some women. So if you're a virgin but you've given oral sex, are you still a virgin?
Yeah.
I think
Technically, yes. You are.
I'm just asking. I don't
I
know.
think
that
so.
Virginity doesn't have to do
Sex-
with your mouth.
Sex
Like,
should
that's
describe as
what you're
anything that
hiding.
causes orgasm, probably. That's
Say
what
that
I would
again?
describe. Anybody, whenever you orgasm with somebody else, I would call that sex.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
I could call it. That's how I would define it. You don't. I mean, like, I know you could give somebody a hand job, but they didn't lose their virginity, but they still
That's
did have
sex?
sex. Yeah. I don't think I would count it as number of partners when you ask somebody how many partners you have, but I think that's some sort of form of sex. It's the same kind of
He wants to beef up his
intimate.
numbers.
What?
So if a stalker's watching in his car and he's jerking off, he just had sex with who he's watching because he came?
If what?
Like, what does that mean?
Like when you masturbate.
No, I'm saying with somebody else.
What if you're having
What
sex,
is-
like, kind of with your clothes on, but there's no
Have you had
penetration,
No
and you
skin
have
to
an
skin
orgasm?
touching.
somebody
That's
else?
sex?
Yeah, with somebody
I
else.
trying to figure out. I think, according to my definition, I would say it's sex. Yeah.
Heavy petting over clothes.
I would call that sex. I guess according to my definition.
But you wouldn't say
orgasm-
if you were a virgin that we're losing their
No, I
virginity.
wouldn't say that. And if somebody asked you, did you have sex? I wouldn't. Did you have? If somebody asked you how many partners have you had, I wouldn't use that as one of the numbers. But yet, I would describe it as sex, some sort of sexual act,
Well, it's
or
some
sex.
sort of
I would
sexual
call it
act.
sex. It's not sexual intercourse. That's why we have a specific definition for sexual intercourse.
But in your head, if you were counting the number of sexual partners,
Mhm.
what would be the distinguishing characteristic?
Intercourse.
Penetration.
So then all of those heavy
Yeah.
petting orgasms, whatever else, they didn't make it to your sexual
They didn't make
partners.
it. Yeah, they wouldn't make it.